Thank you for choosing Pilbert Co. for your listening needs. Please enjoy this edition of Reality Check, Part 3.
The next morning, he made his way through the crowds along the same route he uncovered the day before. It was already easier than he had anticipated. His preliminary nervousness was now out of the way. Having a sense of direction propelled him through the unwelcoming crowds. He waited the same amount of time in the queue room as he had yesterday in order to receive his identification badge. He still preferred his name versus Human Resources Identification Room. He was somewhat bewildered yesterday when Dave told him he would receive his physical badge before the process was entirely complete. It seemed to contradict the whole white paper policy he had been so careful to enunciate. However, he was too exhausted to question anything by that time, and already sensed the uselessness of doing so. He arrived at a different booth, but the same soulless lady arrived to bring him his badge. She greeted him with a simple,
"Hello,"
and held it out for him to take. He hesitated for a few seconds before she chimed in.
"Please take the badge, sir. It's yours."
I'm sorry.
He reached out his hand.
I guess I was expecting some other protocol I needed to complete first.
"Nope, not today."
She stared blankly at him again. That was it. But he knew better than to try and initiate anything else. He took the ID, which hung from a lanyard, and put it around his neck. He paused briefly as he had never worn a badge around his neck, nor had he seen anyone wear one like this around here. Suddenly, the lady spoke. He was surprised, figuring she'd finished her discussion with him.
"The lanyard is removed once final observations are complete."
Ah, there it was. The ridiculousness he remembered.
I see. Thank you for clearing that up.
"Of course, come follow me behind the gate, and David should be here momentarily."
He once again watched her unlatch the gate to her right. She did it so mechanically, but still held a pleasant look on her face. Dev could never understand how one could submit themselves to such passivity in their lives. Then again, even less of the world chose to be starving artists like himself. She escorted him through the same booth he was photographed in, and out into the marathon hallway passage that lay behind it. After a quick minute, Dave swung around the corner and raised his hand in greeting.
Hello, Dev. Please follow me. We will take a much different path this time. Don't tell management, but my way is quicker than the prescribed route.
He complied, and followed him down the same route as before, but about halfway through there was a fork in the corridor. He was surprised he hadn't noticed it the first go-around. They soon found themselves at a single door that opened to a small sidewalk, paved once again with pristine vintage concrete. Every inch of the lawn was perfectly manicured. He hoped to one day meet the prodigious clientele that did such work.
We're going to take the back way around the badge machine building.
He pointed to his left.
The whole building is dedicated to the badge machine?
Dave chuckled.
Not quite. The machine is actually in the basement of the facility, but entire teams of people are dedicated to maintaining and analyzing its performance so it can align with the protocol.
The white paper protocol?
There you go, Dev. You got it.
He seemed to be in a slightly more jovial mood today as he briskly walked along his shortcut. He seemed proud that he had discovered a better way and that he was sharing it with someone else. They continued to walk what felt like a good 3 city blocks before Dave pointed again. Dev looked to his right and spotted something that for once stood out moderately. So far, every building stuck religiously to the style. It was a true accomplishment in the retro Earth style of commercial architecture, repetitive as it may have been. But in the distance, there stood a series of buildings with a distinctly different visage and color palette. They consisted of 5 or more levels with distinctly pitched roofs. Rather than the sleek, dark lines that the offices employed, they sported a type of segmented, scarlet stone he remembered seeing in ancient photographs. Dave continued his pace as he spoke.
The Pilbert Residential Rewards Program. I'll tell you more about it at the end of the day.
Residential? People live there?
Almost employees, but yes, you're mostly correct.
He assumed those words were mutually exclusive here, but he had to forgive Spanish. His enthusiasm was higher than average.
We usually like to keep the status of the dwellings private until an employee has been fully hired, but I think you're an ideal fit being single with little attachments.
He swerved back to face Dave.
Single? How did you know that?
He nervously chuckled.
Your files, I'm not sure why you're surprised. I'm your reality checker after all.
Ah, no problem.
Dave smiled innocently and continued to the rest of the tour. He really seemed to have no idea of his apparent curtness. After another 2 blocks, Dev began to wonder how long he would typically have to walk each day from the train drop-off. Perhaps this is why some chose to live here. He did not want to imagine what such a walk would be like in the rain, even with the best hydrophobic poncho he could buy.
How much does the rent cost?
Oh, you don't know yet, do you?
Dave grinned. For the first time, Dev got the impression that had something up his sleeve.
It's free.
Free?
Yes, sir, the base cost is free, a perk of working for such a great company.
Forget his relationship status. His interest was now piqued for multiple reasons. Free living spaces for employees. He had never heard of such a thing. He imagined the money he could save or spend on his next project. Even just a night out in the nearest city. It was quite a tempting offer regardless of how he received it. But how had he not heard of such a thing? He went to school with plenty of people whose parents were employed by Pilbert, at least half. They had never mentioned the free housing that came with it. Perhaps the remoteness of the office campus demanded one. His mind was racing so much that he almost ignored Dave.
Here we are, the graphics communication office.
Finally, it must have been a good 15 minutes of gray pathways.
Looks just like the other offices.
He joked.
Not at all, Dev. You'll change your mind once you get inside. I know it.
They went through a set of doors, identical to every other one they had all been through. This time, there was a smaller front desk than the one in the Human Resources office. So far, nothing seemed too different than what he had previously encountered.
Follow me, Dev. We'll arrive at the atrium shortly.
He followed close behind Spanish and noticed that there were considerably less crowds than the day before. His hope brightened behind the possibility he would not have to stand in line daily just to get anywhere. Regrettably, the mood slowly died down under the labyrinthine path Dave was taking, though. Gone were the long, flowing sections of the white hallway of yesterday. They had been replaced with the opaque beige tone the company had become famous for. He recalled the last time he went to the hardware store for a gallon of paint. Amongst the browns and tans, there was one titled Pilbertian beige. Yes, it appeared to match up perfectly. Every turn and every corridor came rapidly and unpredictably. It was all at right angles, but other than that was random, one after the other. Historical or not, the chaos that the design entailed still felt purposeful. It was useless trying to keep track of the turns. Thank goodness for the incessant signage. Finally, they reached a long corridor that appeared to open up at the end. There looked to be a skylight of some sort.
Almost there. I think you'll like the atrium. It's a great place to work. I find it a bit inspiring when I walk through it, personally.
Dave said. He was not short of breath in the least. He had become impervious to these long walks over the years. Slowly but surely, the corridor came to an end and opened up into the atrium. Dev could feel the atmosphere lift off of his shoulders, only to be countered by another force that weighed him down. How far did it go? Ahead of him lay an enormous room, a space, more accurately. It stretched so long, so very distant down his field of view. Looking up, the ceiling stood a good 20 feet high and was permeated by intermittent skylights, which illuminated most of the space. In between each of these openings, there were the familiar tubular lights. Behind all of this, the surface of the ceiling was, beyond all sense, tiled. A tiled ceiling was something that Dev had never thought necessary or aesthetic. But here it lay, canvassed as far as the eye could see. Even more prodigious was what lay below it. Desks, cubicles, strange oversized monitors, bulletin boards, metal cabinets, drawers with raw silver handles, and unusual yellow envelopes dotted the scape, and people everywhere. People of all shapes, sizes, and colors crawled across his field of vision. Like an aerial photo, they blended into a harmonious milieu. As one mass, they moved effortlessly across a tapestry of desks and walls, feeding in and out of the intersections and pathways woven within. Like bees in a hive, they moved chaotically but knew their destination all the same. The visage stretched out as far as he could fathom. Everything, the entire world, could have been contained within. How far did it go? It was the only question any sane person could ask in this place, he thought. But he didn't need to ask.
You're looking at about 1 square mile of office space,
Spanish declared as he gazed ahead.
It certainly is a lot to take in if you've never seen it before.
This has to be the largest room I've ever seen.
Oh no, sir.
Dave said as he smiled proudly.
Wait till you get the opportunity to visit headquarters. This is nothing, friend.
Was that the first time Dave called him friend? Dev couldn't help but smile nervously. He could see the perspiration developing on his forehead.
We're more than halfway there. Your department is a short walk. You're quite fortunate, actually. Other employees take about an hour to get their respective departments.
He tried to keep his jaw from falling open.
An hour?
Yes, that's right. It takes away all of their break time and adds an additional 15 minutes to their workday. They sign a clause at the beginning of their employment for it.
A clause? Do they get paid extra as well?
No. Why would they get more compensation?
Dave glanced backward. He was genuinely curious.
I mean, I guess for the extra time they have to spend because of the inconvenience. At least that's what I was thinking.
The grin returned to Dave's face.
You're talking about overtime, aren't you? That kind of thing. I'm aware that some opposing companies still enforce that. But it's been quite some time since anyone here has requested it. If they're doing the same job, there is really no reason under any circumstance to pay them extra, even if their performance is better. That's a boundary we draw, to be fair. Not everyone can be as good as everyone else.
He struggled to find an appropriate response amongst the bustle.
I see. Makes sense.
He mumbled.
It does. Every good peon deserves good pay.
What's a peon?
Oh, of course.
He laughed again.
It's an archaic term that was used to refer to a good worker. I'm a bit of a history buff. That's what I got my degree in, if you haven't guessed already.
I had a feeling. You seem to be pretty knowledgeable about the histories and traditions around here.
Really? Thank you, Dev. That really means a lot. Did you know that's the primary duty of our managers here? Preservation of tradition has been taken to be the #1 rule they enforce. We've already found the best ways to operate, so those methods must remain in tip-top shape.
That also makes sense. Have you ever thought of applying to management?
Another laugh bellowed from Spanish. He was enjoying himself on this marathon walking tour. Perhaps his strict exterior beheld a gentler person inside.
My friend, let's just say that wish might soon come true for you and for me.
They walked for another 15 minutes down one side of the cubicle. Dave explained that within the cubicles, paths of different widths demarcated each work group. Some paths were larger than others and intersected in various spots. To mitigate traffic within these intersections, employees had elected to follow driving rules inside them. There were no traffic lights or projections, but there were at headquarters. Dev asked whether he could use a personal mobility device, such as a motorized scooter, to get around.
No, that wouldn't be fair to the people who don't have one. Moreover, the ambient noise would not be appropriate for a work environment.
The second point felt somewhat reasonable. They then arrived at the first intersection, turning right, while Dave held up his hand for some reason.
About 10 more minutes, Devin. We'll arrive at the breakfast station.
Right here inside the office?
Yes, right here.
There's no cafeteria?
No, of course, there's a cafeteria here.
Not long after turning, He felt his handheld vibrate in his pants pocket. It was Remy.
Hey man, what are you up to right now? What time do you think you'll arrive at the office?
He responded.
What's up? Dave, my reality checker, or whatever he is taking me to breakfast at the station.
Remy.
I can meet you guys there in a couple minutes. I'll just bring my laptop with me.
Dev.
Okay, that should be fine. Dave says we'll be there in a few too.
Remy.
Coolio, see you there.
I think my friend Remy's going to meet us at the breakfast station around the time we get there.
He mentioned to Dave.
No problem at all. It'll be good for Remy to join us. Ease you into the environment a bit more.
They continued for a few more minutes down the same direction until a distinctly different device stood out from the sea of cubicles. It looked similar to the Levi train he took there this morning. As he drew closer, his guess was confirmed. A single, discreet rail was emblazoned into the carpet below. The vehicle appeared to carry around 6 or 7 people tops. A flat hood stood over the seats, which were made of gray leather. They both faced the same direction and had openings slotted in where the passenger could step on.
Is it a trolley of some sort?
Essentially, yes.
I thought you said there were no personal transportation devices allowed here.
This isn't personal, nor is it loud enough to cause a distraction. At any rate, you can always order some of the corporate earmuffs if the noise is too loud.
He looked around only to find an innocent sign sprouting up from the carpet. Breakfast station.
So this is the breakfast station? I don't see any food. Am I missing something?
It is the breakfast station. The food is in the cafeteria, my friend. Where else would it be?
The sweat from walking over a mile this morning was beginning to materialize on his forehead. He wiped a bead of sweat before he attempted to rein his embarrassment.
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand. Why?
The breakfast station takes us to the breakfast cafeteria where we will get our food.
Of course, it had been staring him in the face.
Ah, I see. This is like a train station.
Spanish nodded in confirmation.
Sorry. It didn't make sense to me at first. I didn't know there was a cafeteria nearby. It's specifically dedicated to breakfast, then?
It is. We have workers of all shifts here. They deserve their breakfasts at the appropriate times just like anyone else, too. Wouldn't you agree?
Spanish raised one eyebrow, his expression slightly peaked. A complete reversal from several minutes ago. It felt like he was evaluating him for something.
Of course. I wasn't saying it like that.
No problem. Dev? It just seemed like you needed some help comprehending what we do around here. It's very understandable. Few companies feed their employees. Can you imagine what a disservice that is to them? Imagine walking several miles to get to your cubicle. And you have to travel off campus to get a sandwich. I'm surprised the Extrasolar Business Council hasn't intervened.
Maybe that was because other places didn't have offices that covered a square mile of space, he thought. Whatever the facts, he didn't want to challenge Spanish, a self-proclaimed master of recall. A figure began to grow in the distance beyond the station trolley. It was fascinating how far down he could see down the aisle. The figure drew closer, continuing along a straight line before it came into view. It was Remy.
Thank you for joining us in this edition of Reality Check. Be sure to subscribe and tune in for the next installment. For more Pilbert Co., follow us on Medium, TikTok, and Instagram.